coming up, so keep waving and keep smiling, and we should be fine. Now most people wave, most people smile. A lot of the kids like to spit down onto the boat, which is nice, so we try to keep them happy. To our right, we have the Royal Festival Hall, which is one of the finest concert halls anywhere in the world. It was opened back in 1951 for the Festival of Britain, and it forms part of the South Bank complex, an arts and entertainment area which stretches from the London Eye all the way down to Tower Bridge. You can actually walk this whole stretch of the river. There's a few attractions along the way, lots of bars and restaurants and riverside pubs, lots of street performers doing their thing. Probably takes folks around an hour, a little more than an hour, to walk from the Eye down to Tower Bridge, but a very nice walk, especially on a day like today. To our left, along the river wall, that stone obelisk is Cleopatra's Needle. It's over 3,500 years old. It's older than London itself. It weighs 180 tons and was presented to the British government by a very thankful Egyptian government to commemorate our defeat of the French at the Battle of the River Nile. There is a twin to that column, and it stands in Central Park, New York.
Oh, yeah.
The bridge is Waterloo, known as the Ladies' Bridge, built by ladies during the Second World War, when a lot of men were away at war. The ladies built the longest road bridge we have here in London. It was also the only bridge built in London that was built on time and under budget, and during a war, which was some achievement. To our left, behind the trees, the building with the green dome on top is Somerset House. If you look directly beneath the green dome to the front of the building, you can see an archway. And years ago, believe it or not, the river used to flow into this building through that arch. But over the years, we've built up the embankment wall on either side. Right behind the wall on the left, there's a sewage system which runs the length of the river. Before this sewage system was designed, the Thames was London's sewer. Toilets and waste would flush straight into the river. So a very clever man back in the Victorian era, an engineer called Joseph Bazalgette, designed this sewage system to clean up the river and to clean up the city. Now, as we've built up the river wall over the years, we've narrowed the river, which now gives us much higher tides, and the river today flows a lot quicker. Years ago, the river was much wider. It flowed a lot slower, and on very cold winters, the Thames would freeze over. But today, it flows much too quick to freeze. To our right, behind the trees, it's pretty hard to see, there's a low-lying glass-fronted building. Behind that, a tall office block. And these two buildings, they go together to make Kent House, the headquarters for ITV television. Now, it's from these buildings that we get many of our TV shows. Such classics as Jeremy Kyle, This Morning, X Factor, and all the other rubbish. It comes out of there. It's also from the buildings on the right, when they have news reports at various times during the day, that they actually use this shot of the River Thames we're now travelling through as their background. Now, anybody who lives here in London will have no doubt seen this on telly. Anybody who doesn't live in London, right now, we could all be on national TV. So don't be shy. Give them a little wave over there on the right. You never know, do you? Especially if you're travelling with your loved one, you may get to see yourselves on telly. If you're travelling with somebody else's loved one, I suggest you quickly look to the left. people have been caught out. Next up on the right, the red brick building with the Oxo Tower. Now right at the top, underneath the glass canopy, you'll find the Harvey Nichols restaurant. Once voted one of the top 10 restaurants here in London. Now looking ahead of us on the left, folks, directly ahead, there's a great shot there of the City of London. Ahead of us, some of London's newest buildings dominating the skyline. There's some weird and wonderful shapes. They have some weird and wonderful names, like the gherkin, the cheese grater, the walkie-talkie. Look ahead of us and off to the left, one of London's oldest buildings, St Paul's Cathedral. And this is one of the best shots, if not the best shot, you'll get of St Paul's from the river today. Lots of work, lots of noise taking place on the left. This is all to do with a new sewage tunnel being built beneath the Thames. Now the sewage system we use today, I just told you about, the one that was designed and built back in the Victorian era, when there was just 1 million people here in London. Today that's closer to 8 million people, and that sewage system can no longer cope. So we're building a new sewage tunnel, probably going to be the biggest civil engineering project the country's ever undertaken, lasting many years, costing billions of pounds. And the new tunnel is going to be massive, big enough for this boat to fit inside. And that is a lot of sewage. On our left, the last building here, an impressive semicircular building. It's called Unilever House, and it's the headquarters for Unilever, the massive Dutch manufacturer. We're now going to pass beneath the Blackfriars Bridges, ladies and gents. The first one, a road bridge. The second, a railway bridge. Between the two bridges, we have these red pillars, which is all that remains of the very first railway bridge to span the River Thames. The top half was removed, but they could not remove these supports for fear of disturbing the foundations of the bridges on either side. And this last bridge, the Blackfriars Railway Bridge, about 3 or 4 months ago now, had Tom Cruise running across it. Tom Cruise was running across the roof of this railway bridge doing a bit of filming. They'd closed this section of the river off, and they had 2 helicopters doing low flyovers, filming Tom Cruise run across the roof of the railway bridge there. Filming Mission Impossible 18, I think it's up to now. There's quite a few of them, so look out for that one. Look up to the left, once again the dome, the cross of St Paul's Cathedral, considered as Sir Christopher Wren's masterpiece. Now it took Wren around 35 years to build St Paul's. It was completed in the year 1710, so it's now over 300 years old. Above that grey dome there's a viewing platform. You can see some people up there walking around. The views up there are almost as good as the views from the London Eye. The only drawback, there's over 500 steps to reach that viewing platform. There's no lift. Okay, so hard work getting to the top, but worth it once you get there. Some great views across London. Buried in the crypt of St Paul's are some of our national heroes. These include the Iron Duke, the Duke of Wellington, Lord Nelson, and of course the architect himself, Sir Christopher Wren. If you're here in London for a few days, definitely try and visit St Paul's. In my opinion, the finest building anywhere in the city. A magnificent building. Just passing beneath, folks, the Millennium Bridge, which you probably know better as the Wibbly Wobbly Bridge. It was opened by the Queen on a Saturday morning, and it was closed the very same afternoon by the police for being unsafe. It used to sway from side to side. People walking across the bridge were falling over. They were hanging on for dear life. They had to close the bridge, re-stabilise it. It was reopened again, and it's been perfectly safe ever since. Look to the right, folks, and behind the trees we have a replica of William Shakespeare's Globe Theatre. The white circular structure with a thatched roof is an exact replica of Shakespeare's Globe, built in the same way the original would have been built. This was the idea of a man called Sam Wanamaker. He was a film and theatre director who sadly died before its completion. The project was taken on by his daughter Zoe and was opened by herself and the Queen just over 20 years ago. And they reenact Shakespeare's plays inside the building. It's the only building here in London allowed a thatched roof since the Great Fire of London of 1666. And the original Globe Theatre, folks, burnt down. Not during the Great Fire, because that was on the left side of the river. The original Globe burnt down during a performance of a play. Now, during the performance, they required the sound effect of a cannon. So, they used a cannon. The cannon misfired and burnt the theatre down. And that is what happened to the original Globe Theatre. As we pass through Southwark Bridge, ahead of us on the right, a building with red window frames. Now this is a famous riverside pub, the Anchor at Bankside. And there's been an Anchor pub on or near this site for 400 years. The original was frequented by Dr. Johnson, Samuel Pepys, Charles Dickens and William Shakespeare. The Anchor pub has also starred in a few films, most notably at the end of Mission Impossible. Tom Cruise and Ving Rhames are sat outside this pub having a pint of beer. And where it says the Anchor on the top left, just to the left of that in very small writing, it says built 1615. So now over 400 years old, and it's not even the oldest pub on the banks of the Thames. Look down to the supports of this bridge as we pass through, folks, and you get a bit of an indication to how fast the tide is flowing. You can see it swirling around the supports there. A very fast flowing river, flowing at around 6 knots. At the moment the tide is flooding into London, which it will do for 5 hours. And in 5 hours today, the tide will rise around 7 metres. Coming up on the right, a pirate ship, a black and yellow pirate ship, a replica of Sir Francis Drake's vessel, the Golden Hind, the ship in which he sailed around the world. He was the first Englishman to do so. It took him nearly 4 years. He had a crew of 80 cutthroat sailors. That replica on the right is a full working ship. It has retraced Drake's voyage twice. And folks, if you keep looking to the right, behind the trees very shortly, you'll see Southwark Cathedral, one of London's oldest places of worship. Now, baptised in Southwark Cathedral many years ago was a young boy called John Harvard. He was the son of a local trader. Now, John Harvard grew up, emigrated to America, where he helped found the Harvard University of Massachusetts. Buried in the grounds of Southwark Cathedral is Edmund Shakespeare, the younger brother of William. And this is London Bridge, folks, the world famous London Bridge. The most historic bridge to span the Thames. We've had a London Bridge here for 2,000 years, dating back to the Romans. The London Bridge, which stood before this one, was sinking into the mud. It was going to be demolished until an American businessman built the bridge for $2 million. He had it taken down stone by stone. He numbered all the stones. He then shipped it out to America. And it was re-erected somewhere in America. Does anybody know where? Arizona, yeah. Lake Havasu, Arizona, is where the old London Bridge stands today, taken out as a tourist attraction. This London Bridge opened in 1973. The blue glass building to our left is the headquarters and the training ground for apprentice window cleaners here in the City of London. It should be, shouldn't it? It's not, unfortunately. It's the headquarters for the Daily Express newspaper. Notice how well it blends in with the yellow brick building next door. That's the old Billingsgate fish market, a very famous fish market which stood on that site for over 500 years. Michael Caine, the actor, and the notorious Cray twins, the East End gangsters, started their working life in this building on our left-hand side. Folks, look up to the right, shielding your eyes from the sun, and there's the Shard, the tallest building in Western Europe, standing at just over 1,000 feet high. It has 95 floors in total. On the 72nd floor, a viewing platform, the highest viewing platform you'll find in the city. On a clear day, views of around 45 miles in every direction. Also in the building, there's a hotel, there's a couple of restaurants, and there's apartments. The top penthouse in the building cost £48 million, taken by the architect Renzo Piano, who instead of getting paid for his work he's designed, he took the top penthouse at £48 million. Not bad for basically drawing a triangle, which I could have done. See the flag on the front of the ship there, folks? That's the Union Jack. But that is the only Union Jack you'll see flying in London today. Whenever you see exactly the same flag flying anywhere else, like on a building, for example, just back on the left, or on Tower Bridge, it's just the Union flag. It's only ever the Union Jack when it sits on the front of a naval ship on the jack staff. Okay, that's the only time it should be called a Union Jack. Anywhere else, it's just the Union flag. The Belfast was built in the same shipyard as the Titanic, the Harland and Wolff shipyard in Belfast. Last fired her guns in anger during the Korean campaign. Permanently moored here now since the 1970s, opened as a floating extension to the Imperial War Museum. You can go aboard the Belfast, look around her 9 different decks, from the engine rooms right up to the bridge. And it's an interesting day out aboard the Belfast. Now folks, ahead of us, Tower Bridge. And what we'll do for you very shortly is turn the boat side onto Tower Bridge to give you the perfect photo opportunity. Okay? So just wait a couple of minutes and we'll get you in the perfect position. Before we turn, we're going to sit here for a second. Look up to the left now. We have a great view of the Tower of London, which is of course London's most famous tourist attraction. All started by William the Conqueror back in 1078, shortly after the Norman invasion. In its long history, the tower's been used as many things. It's been a royal mint, a zoo, an observatory, probably best remembered as a prison and as a place of execution. Just look to the river wall on the left and you can see the top of a bricked-up archway, a sentence above that reads entry to the Traitors' Gate. Now years ago, traitors to the crown, if found guilty, were sentenced up at the Houses of Parliament. They were then placed in a rowing boat. They were rowed down to this point, taken through that archway, up onto Tower Hill, to await execution. The preferred method of execution was the chopping block. Your head would be laid across a wooden block, and your head would then be removed from your shoulders by the means of a very large, often blunt axe, which sometimes took a few chops to get the job done. A very gruesome form of execution. Of course, we no longer use this form of punishment. Today, we have something much, much worse. Today, of course, we have community service, which I think is much more. A few famous people to go through Traitors' Gate and never return were Anne Boleyn, one of Henry VIII's wives, Sir Thomas More and Guy Fawkes. Today the tower houses the crown jewels, the Queen's jewellery, and she's got quite a bit of that. All guarded by the yeoman warders. And there's almost 1,000 years of history inside the tower, French and English. A lot of it is very gruesome. But folks, should definitely be on your list of things to do whilst here in London. Visit the tower, steeped in history. And there you go folks, we're now turning the boat, skillfully manoeuvring at the vessel to give you a lovely shot of Tower Bridge, the gateway to London. A part suspension, a part bascule bridge, opened in 1894. The two centre bascules which link the road together, each weigh 1,200 tonnes. That is, can be raised to their full upright position in just 90 seconds to allow bigger ships in and out of the upper port of London. If you would like to find out when the bridge is going to lift, it's very simple. Just do a Google search of Tower Bridge opening times and it gives you the date, the time and for what vessel the bridge is opening for. They have to make it public knowledge for the emergency services. And look at this folks, look, a red double-decker bus about to cross the centre of Tower Bridge. Two iconic sights of London in the one shot. Usually a £10 postcard. Save yourselves a few quid with that. There is just one day of the year Tower Bridge never opens, just one day. Would anybody like to guess what day that is? It's not Christmas or the Queen's birthday. It's a sporting event that takes place once a year. No. It's London Marathon Day, because Tower Bridge is part of the marathon course and the runners are crossing the bridge for the best part of the day. So that's the only day of the year Tower Bridge never ever opens. Maybe it should one year, just to make the marathon a bit more difficult, because it's far too easy, I think. One of the best times to see the